Good evening to all.
Good evening, sir.
Yes, sir.
Good evening, sir.
Uh, I think all you get the notes.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Is it shared in your group?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Okay. So today our topic for discussion is scientific understanding of animal welfare. I'm sharing the slides. Is it visible to all?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so today we'll discuss about the scientific understanding of animal welfare. So before going to that, you should know about animal welfare. So what is animal welfare? Means any answer from any side? Okay, I'm answering my own question that it's a well-being of particularly non-human organism. What we are considering here, human being also a part of animal group, but what we are considering here, animal welfare stands for well-being of non-human animals. Okay, so this is the pictorial presentation, basic pictorial presentation of animal welfare. It refers to the condition that animals live in and how they cope in those conditions. Okay, so that is coming under animal welfare. So this is my first slide, how animal welfare to be presented. Animal welfare closely linked to what already I have told you the definition, the layman's definition of animal welfare, that is the well-being of animals. And what animal welfare linked to what substances, what concepts? It mainly or closely linked to animal health and the health and well-being of people. Okay, if we are considering about, we are talking about biodiversity, our health is in correlation with the organismal health or wild animals health, not only wild, domestic animal also. So along with that, sustainability of socio-economic and ecological system is also included in that part or linked to that part. What do you mean by sustainability? Sustainability means when we are talking about socio-economic sustainability, all we know that ecological system, it's a ecosystem. Okay.
Yes, sir.
If we are talking about, yes, any question? If we are
No,
talking
sir.
about sustainable development of animal or socio-economic development, sustainability of socio-economic development of animal group, that includes particularly the future aspect. That means what we have presently and what we will have in the future. That is the sustainability. Sustainability means what socio-economic condition we are maintaining now and in future, what kind of socio-economic condition we will face due to this animal welfare part. That is the case we will discuss in further part. Okay, so this is the broad definition analysis of animal welfare understanding or its scientific approach. So before going to that, first of all, we'll discuss about different views of animal welfare. Very firstly, the biological functioning view. Biological functioning means what kind of living systems, living or life supporting systems, or what is the biological system particularly we have to focus. We have to verify. We should focus on how well an animal is functioning biologically. That means if growth is there, reproductive success is there, and health is well, then only we can say that the organism is biologically active and it is living. Desire, internal desire of organism, according to Darwin, is surviving and producing its own progeny as its next generation. That is the natural selection provided by Darwin. Okay, so according to that concept, if we are considering about the biological organism, that means organism growth is there. Without growth, organism unable to attain the reproductive age. If reproductive age is not attained, then only it is difficult for the reproductive success, because reproductive success is only possible when organism is at its reproductive age. And also definitely the another important component is its health. If health is not good, that means organism become diseased, then only growth and reproduction is not possible or satisfactory. Okay, so that concept is coming under the biological functioning view. You have to mention all these points what I have told. Again, I am saying what is mentioning in my notes, in my presentation, that is very, everything is mentioned here, but you can add something as what I am saying in the discussion part. That is also very essential. Okay. So after biological functioning view, we should go for the natural living view. Natural living view means we should emphasize on the ability of animals to perform natural behaviors and live in environment that are similar to their natural habitat. When if we are talking about a zoo, we place some animals inside that zoo. That means we have to take care those animals as they are living in their own natural environment. They should not feel that this is a alter habitat for us. That means it's a stress condition for the animal. So that we should emphasize. That is the natural living view. Organism always want to stay in its nature. Okay, so that is the natural living view regarding animal welfare. And at last, the affective state view. That means that concerned with the mental and emotional state of animal. Before some time, I have told you that every organism has its own desire to live it in its own place. We all human being also in day-to-day life, we love our home or our living place where we are healthy in mental point of view or in emotional point of view. So that also applicable for the animals. So what kind of conditions there we should get? Pleasure, pain, fear, distress. So these are the condition, mental and emotional states. Okay. If every well-being conditions is maintained, then we can say that animal welfare concept is satisfactory. Okay, so these are different views of animal welfare. That is the first part of your syllabus concern. Then we'll go for the scientific basis. So what is particularly the scientific basis? It involves mainly these highlighted things, that is behavioral studies, physiological measures, and health and longevity. So what is that part? First we will discuss. Behavioral studies, what it is actually, it is the key indicator of welfare. Why we are calling it key indicator of welfare? Because it measures animal behavior such as activity levels, how animal is active, social interaction, how it interacting with other organisms or with the society where it is present, grooming, aggression, abnormal repetitive behavior, what is known as stereotypic behavior, everything that coming under the behavioral studies, how organism mushrooming itself or developing its different species or number of species production, rate of reproduction, aggression, how organism is aggressive, what kind of uh, stereotypic behavior organisms are showing. So these all are the very important aspect of this behavioral studies. Positive welfare is often associated with normal species type behavior, while negative welfare can be indicated by stress related behavior. That is the general conclusion. If organism is behaving, not only animal, not human being also, non-human animal as well as human being, if they are showing the positive attitude, they are showing the positive behavior, that means the species typical behavior, positive behavior associated with normal condition. That means we can say that the organism in its normal state. But when the organism is associated with negative welfare, can be indicated by stress related factor. That means those abnormal behaviors, stereotypic behaviors, and all these things which is not found in general condition is showing by the organism. That is very important part. Physiological measures means the internal measures. If we go for the doctor for any checkup, that means we are going for physiological check. So here, physiological parameters include what? Particularly the heart rate, different stress hormone levels, cortisol, different immune function, and reproductive success. So these are internal part. So that assessment is very important for animal welfare. Chronic stress or poor welfare is often linked to elevated stress hormone levels. This is one of the best example. If organismal stress hormone is more, stress hormone is acting as an indicator. Indicator means the condition of organism is indicated or shown. If stress hormone is more, that means organism always in its stress condition. So accordingly, we should take steps to reduce that stress. But this is a particular indicator which indicates what kind of organismal status each. The last one is the health status. Okay. Good welfare is typically associated with better health outcomes. If we are talking about better health, that means from all round development or all round concept, organism is fit. Okay, and the next part is longevity. Longevity means okay. Long life condition. So all of you clear up to this? If we become healthy, we can live for a longer period. That is the final outcome. So these all are coming under scientific basis of animal behavior. Am I audible to all? Is
Yes,
it clear?
sir. Yes,
Okay.
sir.
So this is a pictorial presentation what I have explained previously. If we go for animal welfare, here some livestock examples are shown to you. Good welfare condition means all the indicators, whatever mentioned here, is in its normal level. So for that, certain managements are very important. Otherwise, animal undergo in its degradation phase. Okay, so these are the pictorial presentation of animal welfare. Already I have explained everything. Now we'll go for evidence-based approaches to animal welfare. When we are talking about animal welfare, the well-being of animal. So what kind of evidence-based approach? We have to study or analyze. It rely on scientific research to guide decisions and practices aimed at improving animal welfare. Evidence based is very important for its improvement. If we are discussing about animal welfare, means not to its for its degradation or loss. We will we are discussing this all things for animal welfare improvement. So these approaches ensures that welfare interventions are effective and based on best available data. So firstly, we'll discuss about empirical research. Empirical research means it is data driven research. Empirical research means, yes, every research is in its empirical state. That means data driven research, which rely on controlled experiment, observational studies, and longitudinal monitoring. Controlled experiment means every time we have to compare organismal status with a controlled study. Already we have controlled study. Controlled study means the generalized study. What should be the generalized condition or body condition of the organism, and what type of organism we have. If they uh, if we'll measure the conditions of our organism with the generalized body mechanism or condition, then only we can make a comparison. Okay, and what kind of observation we have, that is very important. If our organisms are unable to satisfy those generalized conditions described in different research paper, in different government standard protocols, then that observation is must be communicated to the doctors or any personnel having a good idea about that. And longitudinal monitoring means every regular attend monitoring. That means regularly checkup. It is known as regular checkup. Longitudinal monitoring means regular checkup. What is the condition of organism? Okay, so research provide insight into how specific environment, practices, or conditions affect welfare. If we will take one example here mentioned, in case of livestock, welfare may compare different housing system to determine which ones lead to better health, behavior, and emotional outcomes. So everything, where organism is present, what kind of organism, what kind of system, what kind of conditions is organism facing, what kind of food is available for the organism, everything is the determining factor of organismal welfare. And every data is very important for its improvement. That is coming under empirical research. If we are talking about welfare assessment and protocols, the second part already mentioned here, we can discuss about the 5 freedoms. Already 5 freedom is in your course and we'll discuss about it in future. The detail about the 5 freedom, just I am mentioning, just I am indicating certain points of 5 freedoms. What 5 freedoms? That means animal welfare assessment are developed to evaluate animals based on multiple criteria. Okay, so what kind of multiple criteria? That is coming under this 5 freedom. That means it is freedom from hunger, from discomfort, pain, fear, and freedom to express normal behavior. That is very important for organism, because these frameworks are rooted in scientific data and provided a standardized way to assess welfare in practice. Okay. So freedom from hunger, discomfort, pain, fear, and freedom to express their normal behavior is, I think, the basic needs of the organism. Okay. If organisms are getting this kind of need, then only welfare is possible. Otherwise, animal welfare is only in theory, not in practical part. Okay. And the third part of this approach is application in policy and practices. Evidence-based approaches are used to create guidelines and regulations for animal welfare in agriculture, research, zoos, and pet. Because we find animals in these fields. Okay, what kind of animal is present in natural environment? Generally, welfare is not necessary for them because they are in natural environment. But nowadays, why we are discussing about more and more about welfare? Because we are destroying their natural environment. We are keeping those organisms in different purposes, in different zoo conditions. We are using those organisms in agricultural purposes, for research purpose. Okay, so for that, it is very important to look after their well-being. For that, organismal application in policy and practices includes what? It recommendation of housing. If we are keeping some organism in certain area, that means we have to follow certain protocols regarding their house, regarding their nutrition, regarding their environmental enrichment, their healthcare, veterinary care, what is mentioned here, and handling of those organisms. If we are talking about the research, if we are talking about the agriculture and pets, okay, so these are very important. We should follow certain standard operating protocols, the SOPs, for their well-being. So here one example is written. The improvement in welfare standards for farm animal often arise from scientific evidence showing how overcrowding, lack of enrichment, or poor management practices affect both physical health and emotional well-being of the organism. Already I have explained. So this is the first introductory part we have discussed. Now we'll go for the next part, animal welfare overview. I'm showing another slide. Just wait. Okay. So this is the actual part of this chapter, that concept of animal welfare and overview. And under this, we'll discuss about these 5 freedom concepts. So in this part, first we'll discuss about the cooperation, environmental coping. Okay. The picture is showing at right side is just schematic presentation, or we can say it as a cartoon picture that is showing that some people are standing on the earth. The meaning of the picture, in my sense, the people are standing on the earth in a very happy manner. It shows that if cooperation is there between the organism and between the environment, then well-being is possible. So that should be maintained properly. Cooperation is very important. So here, first thing is environmental coping. What it refers? It refers to animals' ability to adapt to and manage the challenges posed by the environment. Okay, all we know that environment means whatever substances present around us. The components, whatever components present surrounding us is the part of ecosystem or environment. Both biotic components and abiotic components, they have impact on us because we are dependent on both the components. So we know that environment is not static. Again, I am repeating my words already 5 to 6 times. I have explained in previous classes also that environment is not static. Static means stable. It is dynamic. To maintain the dynamism of environment or dynamic stability of the environment, organism should modify itself to cope with the environment. So that is the principal concept of this environmental coping, which refers to an animal's ability to adapt and manage the challenges posed by the environment. As environment is dynamic, every day or at certain regular interval of time, environment is prescribing certain amount of challenges, different difficulties for the organism. Organism has to adapt itself in changing environment. Otherwise, degradation of organism, or we can say it as eradication of organism, is very essential. Okay. So what kind of challenges we are facing due to environmental dynamism? That includes certain challenges I have mentioned here. The temperature fluctuation. Every year nowadays, this is the common problem for us. We are facing global warming in an alarming condition. Every year we can find the temperature is rising 1 degree average. And there is fluctuation of temperature. At certain position of earth, we are getting or we are experiencing high temperature. At certain places of earth, we are experiencing very less temperature. If we are talking about the Siachen, the temperature is minus 32 degrees Celsius. But if we are talking about the equatorial region, near equatorial region in our country, the temperature is almost, or in Rajasthan, the temperature is almost 52 degrees Celsius. So there is a great difference between this temperature. You can say it as temperature fluctuation. Another is food availability. Nowadays, carrying capacity. Carrying capacity means the amount of organisms are placed in a particular fixed area. It is increasing day by day. That means only the organism, particularly the number of human beings, are increasing due to different factors. That is not our part of discussion. But for example, why food availability is a challenge for us? Because environment is, or the area where food is produced is constant. That is not increasing. But what is increasing daily? The number of organisms, which organisms are consuming those food. So this food availability is a great challenge for us nowadays. Malthusian theory already explained the food production is in its arithmetic progression, whereas human bombardment is in its geometric progression. That's why food availability is a great challenge nowadays. Social stressors and physical constraints. So these are also different type of environmental challenges for us. So what is the coping mechanism? Coping mechanism is animals employ both physiological. Physiological is the concept of thermoregulation, immune responses, and behavioral strategies, seeking shelter, social bonding to cope with environment stresses. So these are the mechanisms. If we know the mechanism of thermoregulation, we all are the homeothermic organism. Certain organisms surrounding us are poikilothermic organism. Homeothermic means warm-blooded organism. Poikilothermic means cold-blooded organism. We know the method of thermoregulation. The organism, if they are cold-blooded, they undergo hibernation, estivation to maintain the body temperature. Because the environmental temperature can easily influence the body temperature. So to protect themselves from environmental temperature, to maintain their body temperature, which is coming under thermoregulation internal factor, they are undergoing different processes like estivation and hibernation. So you have to mention, don't mention only these 2 or 3 points what I have mentioned. What I am discussing is very important. If it is written here thermoregulation, you have to mention the mechanism of thermoregulation, how the environmental coping mechanism is working. This is an example I am showing. If organism is well known about the thermoregulation, if it is cold-blooded, then it undergoes the different process of estivation as well as hibernation. If it is warm-blooded organism, then its blood or the components of blood, they maintain the temperature. Different organisms, exothermic organisms, they create heat. They can generate heat. They know how to maintain their body temperature. That is very important. Immune responses. If we are facing certain antigens or antigenic substances, then immune organism can develop its immune responses. Okay, so that is very important, and it is very important to cope with environmental stressors. Environmental stressors means environmental challenges. If there is a disease prevailing ours or surrounding us, if we are talking about the COVID, for some days it is very difficult for people of that time to cope with the environmental stress. Environmental stress was the COVID-19 explosion. But nowadays, we are very open to COVID-19. We all are affected and we all developed different kind of immune system in our body, different antigenic substances in our body, different immune responses in our body to mitigate that problem. That is the coping mechanism. And also behavioral strategies, that means shelter, which kind of shelter we have, and social bonding. If social bonding is there, that is also another important aspect of this environmental coping. So these are different type of mechanism you have to mention. Then impact on welfare. Environmental coping impact on welfare. When animals are unable to cope effectively, it results in poor welfare. This is the generalized concept which manifested as stress, illness, or abnormal behavior. So, welfare is enhanced when environments provide conditions that support animals' natural coping abilities. If naturally organism is fit, then no need for it the debate on animal welfare. Organism can maintain its own health. Organism can maintain its own behavioral status. So that is the impact on welfare. Now, the next concept we have to discuss about the animal sentience. It defines the capacity of animals to experience emotion such as pleasure, pain, fear, and joy. So, scientists are aware of their surrounding. Sentient animal means which animals they have all the or they experience all the emotions. They should aware of their surrounding and can have subjective experiences. Okay, so what is the sentience role in welfare? If we are talking about the welfare and if we are talking about the sentience, what is the relationship between sentience and welfare? What is the role of this sentience in welfare? It emphasizes the ethical responsibility to ensure that animal experience more positive states and fewer negative states. Okay, so this means organism must attain all the satisfactory conditions that can give them more positive result. Okay, that if we're talking about the stress must be lower due to any factor, due to nutrition factor, due to shelter factor, due to any factor. There is very less stress for the organism. That means organism is in its joy mood. It is not in fear. It is not in pain. It is in its pleasure state. And for that, scientific evidence support that many animals, particularly vertebrates, those having vertebral column, are sentient and can suffer from poor treatment or adverse environment. Okay, if organism in its good state, then no adverse environment can easily damage the organism. Okay, that is the part. What is the ethical implication? It is recognition of animal sentience, which has led to laws and regulations designed to minimize suffering and improve the quality of life. Laws and regulations should be there. Different organizations are there to frame certain SOPs, to frame certain punishment system. If we are not treating the organism in research field well, if we are not treating the organism well in our farming, then punishment is also there. Certain standard operating system, certain protocols are there. We should follow. Every organism, every human being should follow those protocols to check the animal welfare. That is very important. So what are the animal needs? Welfare means it should meet the needs of the organism. If we are talking about the carrying capacity always depends on the needs. Needs particularly means the sources, the resources, whatever needs are available for the organism, that determine the status of organism. So what are the basic need for the organisms? It includes physiological needs, safety needs, and social needs. So first of all, if we'll discuss about the physiological needs, it is including food, water, shelter, physical health. These are the physiological needs. That means food is very important for our internal as well as external development. Food is essential for getting energy. Water is the important source of our survivability. Shelter is very important, and physical health also important for organismal well-being. That's why physiological needs are the essential needs for the organism. Nowadays, not nowadays, it is previously also present. Not only physiological needs, safety needs also important. The factor of protection. If we are talking about the predators, most organisms are affected by predators. Their population can be affected mostly by the predator. And along with the predator, harsh environmental condition also important factor for organismal destruction. So if we are talking about the animal needs for their well-being, then we should emphasize on less predatory effect. Less predatory effect means organism is protected in its area. That means there is no predator or very less amount of predator, which is helpful for organismal growth, development, and reproductive success. And also environmental condition is good for that environment or for that present area. Okay, if harsh environment is there, then it is difficult for the organism to survive. And at last, the final need is the social need. If there is no social need, then attaining reproductive success is also difficult. If social interaction is there, social interaction means how organism is coping with other organism of same category, other organism of different category as well as other organism of same category. That interaction is very important. That means certain cooperation method is there. Certain organism depends on other organism for their daily needs. Certain organisms are depending upon other organism for their food without harming them. Okay, and species dependence is very important. If we are talking about the reproduction, organism male is dependent upon its own female species for the process of reproduction. If organism is in its society, is in its group, then it is successful. Otherwise, it is very difficult for those organisms to get that reproductive success or find its next generation. That is the social needs. So these are basic needs for the organism. And if the needs are satisfactory, then we can say that well-being is there or all-round development is there. Okay. So next we'll discuss about the psychological and behavioral needs along with the basic needs. Certain accessory needs also there, particularly in present days. These needs are very important because every organism, they are in stress due to different man-made factors. So psychological and behavioral needs are also important for organismal well-being. Beyond physical survival, organisms have mental needs such as stimulation, exploration, and expression of natural behaviors. Already, I have explained certain things. If we are talking about the mating rituals, different mating rituals are species specific. In different species, different type of mating rituals are there. Excuse me, just a minute. So, if we are talking about mating rituals, foraging means feeding condition. If organism is not in its mental status, not in its good mental status, it is difficult for the organism to move forward, to move around and finding food. It is difficult for the organism to find its mating partner. If we are talking about the honeybee, if we are talking about the worker, if the status of worker, the health status of worker honeybees are not good, then it is difficult for them to maintain good health status. Then its impact on welfare. Failing to meet these needs, which can lead to stress, frustration, and the development of abnormal behaviors, which is known as stereotypic behavior. So, good welfare explains what? Both fulfillment of basic physical needs and the provision of opportunities for their mental growth and development. So, this is all about the different kinds of needs. It includes what? Particularly basic needs. Along with basic needs, the physiological and behavioral needs and impacts on welfare. So now come to this part, which is comprehensive framework of animal welfare. And in this, we should consider the multiple aspect of animal's life, which includes physical, mental, behavioral dimensions. And for that, 5 freedom is very essential. That 5 freedom already I have explained in brief what is 5 freedom, and in next slides we'll go for different detailed discussion of 5 freedom. Along with 5 freedom, 5 domains model, which based on nutrition, environment, health and behavioral aspect, is also very important. Along with that, animals mental state, for maintaining welfare of organism, good health or well-being of organism, animals mental state is very important. Okay, so now come to 5 freedom of animals. Origin of 5 freedom, which is formulated by Bramble in 1965. Over the time, 5 freedom were expanded and refined to include mental states and ability to express normal behaviors. They have been adopted worldwide as a standard for animal welfare, which influence legislation of farm animal welfare. So these are the pictorial presentation. I have mentioned here 5 freedom. So first one, just mark my cursor. This is freedom from discomfort due to environment, freedom from thirst, hunger and malnutrition, freedom from express normal behavior or species, freedom from fear and distress, freedom from pain, injury and diseases. So these are the 5 freedoms. We'll discuss it elaborately. What are those 5 freedoms? So come to the first freedom, freedom from hunger and thirst. What it assess? It assess to fresh water and a diet that maintain full health and vigor. If we want to mitigate the hunger and thirst, that means we have plenty of food or good amount of food as well as pure water for our survival. Then freedom from discomfort express what? It provide an appropriate environment, including shelter and a comfortable resting area. Freedom from pain, injury, and diseases. That means prevention of injury, illness, and proper treatment if they occur. Freedom to express normal behavior is a sufficient space. If we don't have sufficient space, if we don't have proper facilities, then normal behavior or expression is not possible. And company of animals own kind, that means own species assistance is very important. Otherwise, organism is not feeling free in its own environment. And at last, the freedom of fear and distress, that ensures the condition that avoid mental suffering by providing a positive psychological environment. So in right side diagram, it shows the organism stand up for the 5 freedoms because these are the basic requirements for their well-being. Now come to the advantages of 5 freedoms. So what 5 freedom express means? What is the advantage of 5 freedom? The first is the comprehensive yet simple advantage. The 5 freedom cover both physical and emotional aspect of welfare. What we have discussed in previous slide, it includes what? It includes the emotional aspect as well as the physical aspect of welfare. Organism emotionally and physically become well-being if all the 5 freedoms are available for the organism. If we are talking about the global influence, the freedoms have been adopted internationally, influencing animal welfare standard across a wide range of contexts, including livestock framing, zoos, and pet care. and ethical and practical guidance already I have discussed. The freedom guide ethical treatment while also providing practical benchmark for improving the animal welfare through better management, housing, and care practices. Okay, so these are different advantages of five freedom. Physically or mentally, approach of well-being is maintained only by five freedom. Otherwise, it is very difficult for the organism to maintain their status. So these are the limitations of five freedom. So first limitation of five freedom, a relatively simplistic representing a binary approach. That means whether animal have freedom or they don't have freedom. But modern understanding of welfare emphasize what? It emphasizes of welfare including opportunities for positive experiences rather than simply eliminating negatives. Not only we have to eliminate the negative, we should impose certain positive impacts on organisms. And the second one, lack of focus on positive welfares. That is the limitation. Only five freedom express what? About the freedom from the negative things, but it do not emphasize on the positive things regarding their joy and contentment. Okay, so different welfare models are nowadays are available in five domains format, which emphasize the importance of providing animals with opportunities for positive emotional states. This is the limitations. And the future aspect of this five freedom program is the further development that which is called as five domains model as a response to limitations of the five freedoms. The five domains was established to give the more attention to both positive as well as negative experiences. That means elimination of negative impacts and imposing of positive impacts for their well-being. It emphasizes on these factors I have mentioned in red mark: nutrition, environment, health, and behavior. Okay, along with that, animal-centered approaches. It's a newer model which emphasizes on the subjective experience of animals and the need for a deeper understanding of species-specific welfare needs. Okay, what it includes? It includes creating enriched environment which can promote natural behavior and social structure for different species. At last, this is assessment system. Which kind of assessment? It is welfare quality assessment. This framework based on scientific research integrates animals' welfare behavior and physical health data to assess welfare outcomes. So this is all about the further development for animal welfare. So this is all about the assessment process of animal welfare. Now I'll go for the next slide. So this is the animal welfare assessment process. It includes first identifying welfare criteria. That means understanding what aspect of animal's life need to be evaluated. Okay, so what are the aspects? Health, behavioral well-being, emotional states, environmental factors. So these are the aspects of animal's life need to be evaluated. Secondly, the choose appropriate measures or indicators. That means these can be direct, which include physiological or behavioral data, as well as indirect, environmental as well as resource-based data. Then data collection is very important. Use observational studies, laboratory tests, survey methods to gather welfare data. Analysis, not only data collection is important, but analysis and interpretation are also important. Collected data is analyzed in relation to welfare standards or benchmarks to determine the quality of animal's life. Decision making regarding analysis is also important part, because if analysis and interpretation is not good, then good decision cannot be taken regarding their welfare assessment or process. And feedback loop, regular assessment ensures that welfare remains high and adjustment are made by necessary actions. So these are 6 assessment process or systemic assessment process which involves several animal welfare system. This is a schematic presentation. It includes the environment, which is marked here in red color, social and physical, which ensures design and space, species-specific physical infrastructure, space allowances for appropriate social interactions, shelter and hygiene, environmental noise quality, appropriate temperature, humidity range, appropriate decision for feeding, appropriate social grouping, their diet, water provision, body condition. Diet and water provision, they are in nutrition factor, body condition, visible new injuries, and range of behavior. Body conditions, visible injury are in health. The behavior includes enrichment or their positive behavior, monitoring, knowledge, healthcare provided to them. So this species specific welfare assessment, it includes assessment is a tool designed to gather information about particular animal enclosure and identify animal welfare gaps and animal welfare opportunities to provide conditions that are likely to facilitate positive welfare states in our animals. Okay, so these are assessment factors for species specific welfare. This short assessment incorporates mainly these sections. Whatever sections I have discussed, these sections are assessed. These sections are incorporated in this assessment plan. Okay. Now, why there is an assessment for animal welfare? These are different questions we should answer for this, why we carry out animal welfare assessment. So first thing is to obtain factual input for management decisions, to obtain unbiased management information, to know factually if the facility is at risk, to identify areas of opportunity, to improve continuous communication and motivation, to assess individual performance based on facts, to assess status and capability of infrastructure, to assist with training of all staff. Okay, so these assessing facility is available management tools which can reveal major opportunities for animal welfare and operational improvement. In this, first we have to discuss about the animal welfare assessment framework. Okay, so this 5 important domain model, what we discussed in the previous part. In previous part, what we discussed in previous part, we discussed about the 5 freedoms of animal model. What is emphasizing on binary system, that animals do have their freedom or they do not have their freedom, but it do not emphasize on other factors, particularly the factor which can give them pleasure, which can give them joy. So for that, in further system, the scientists develop 5 domains model. 5 domains model includes what? It includes nutrition, environment, health, behavior, mental state. So first thing, we'll discuss about the nutrition. Why nutrition is important? We all know that nutrition can provide the energy, essential energy for our life. If we don't have nutrients, then energy yielding is very difficult. So for that process, to mitigate the problem, we have to consume, not only we, every organism, every animal have to consume good nutrients for good life, for longevity. Okay, so nutrients along with water, it is also a part of nutrient, but water, pure form of water, not infected water, it is pure form of water, is very essential for organismal survivability, well-being of the organism. Nutrition, and the second one is environment, where the organisms are present. That means which kind of habitat they have, which kind of external factors they are experiencing every day. And if habitat is there, whether it is able to provide sufficient space for the organism or not, that is very important. So first thing, appropriate shelter means appropriate habitat, the dwelling place of the organism. Dwelling place means where organism is living. That means where all the organisms are getting their food, getting their different necessities. Okay, that is the place. And space for them means which space is protected, where they can get their mate for next generation. And particularly the edaphic factor, the temperature, the light. That means temperature has tremendous impact on organismal life, organismal survivability, as well as its reproductive success. So environment is dynamic and organism has to accommodate itself, or organism has to adapt itself with the changing environment, because different kinds of challenges are there from the environment. Already we have discussed what kind of challenges organism is providing us, or every organism, day by day. If organism unable to adapt itself with the organism, then it is difficult for the organism to survive. Then the next one is health factor in 5 domain model. Health is the wealth. It is general saying. It is the generally we are discussing that health is wealth, because if health is not good, then nothing will be good. So to maintain good health, good environment and good nutrition is very important. If health is getting deteriorated, that means certain additional care must included with the organismal life or involved with organismal life. That additional care includes particularly the veterinary care. That means doctors care for organismal survivability, prevention method for organismal survivability, their absence of injuries, because it cause the organismal death. It can cause the organismal death. If injuries are there, the non-human animals, they unable to take proper care of those injuries, because we all know that different kinds of injuries they are getting every day due to different factors in environment. If I'm giving one example, if we are talking about the antelopes, they are injured due to their horns for sexual selection, for different kind of movement. So in natural environmental condition or the non-human organisms, animals, they unable to take proper care of their injuries, which in turn or which results what? Which results different kind of infections, septicemia condition. Okay, so to check that health must be maintained by advice of the doctors, by advice of certain personals which have a good idea regarding that factors. Then the fourth one is behavior, which express ability to exhibit species specific behavior, ability to exhibit species specific behavior, which is yeah. And the last one is mental state, assessing positive and negative emotional experiences. Positive and negative emotional experiences. The last one, quality of life. Okay, abbreviated as QOL approach, quality of life approach. What it focuses? It focuses on the overall experiences of the animal over time, considering how factors like disease, stress, or positive experience affect its life as a whole. Up to this, have some idea? Am I audible? Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
So these are different pictorial presentation. This is the condition we should maintain for organismal well-being, for their joy purpose, not only to mitigate, not only to eradicate the problems, but also add some conditions which are giving them certain happiness for their survivability. If we are keeping one organism in enclosure, that means we should take certain special care for those organisms. Then only the organism can feel free, can feel less stress condition for its survivability. Otherwise, The enclosure itself is the stress for the organism, because organism unable to move freely inside the enclosure like the natural environment. So feeding habit, feeding condition, and what kind of food they actually need, that is also very important, that we should pay attention for that, for the well-being of the organism. So different welfare based measures. Welfare based measures are actually the tools and methods that help assess the welfare of animals in specific situations. So, what kind of situations? First, animal based measures like physiological indicators and behavioral indicators that we should give emphasis. If stress hormone level is more, that means we have to study the conditions which are actually responsible for this condition of more stress hormones. Immune function is another important part, because immune system is very essential in naturally occurring organism for their survival. Every day we are fighting with different antigens, with different disease causing agents, but there is no disease every day we have experience, because our immune system is always in a mood of protection that guard our body against those systems. That is very important. Body conditions also maintained properly for organismal well-being. Along with that, behavioral indicators that indicate sign of fear, distress, abnormal behaviors. If organism is in normal condition, if health is in its proper state, then the sign of fear, distress, abnormal behaviors are very less. Or you can say is that there is no kind of distress, there is no kind of abnormal behaviors. But if organism is not good in its health, if it is not getting proper amount of food, then this kind of behavior like fear, stress, everything we can observe from the organism or from the daily behavior pattern of the organism. Then the second measure is the resource based measure. Resource based measure ensures what? It provided to the animals such as quality and quantity of food. When we are talking about the food, the nutrition is good. That means what kind of nutrition they actually need, what amount of nutrition they actually need daily basis. That should be satisfied by different authorities or personnel which are involved in this process. If we are talking about the zoo animals, if the personnel which are involved in zoo authority, if they don't know what actually organism is, what actually the requirement of the organism or the daily requirement of the organism, how much amount the organism needs daily, then only it develops different kind of unfavorable condition for the organism. That's why quality and quantity is very important for organismal survivability. And resource based measure also emphasis on what? Housing condition, shelter, temperature, breeding. Sorry, this is breeding. Typological error is there, and enrichment. That means where they are present. If the condition is clean or not, infections are there or not, So checking all these factors are very important. Their breeding, or they have breeding partner or not, they have mating partner or not. If there is no such conditions available, enrichment of those factors are first priority in that condition for their well-being. And the last one is management based measure. Management based measure means that focus on how animals are managed and handled by humans. Nowadays, we are interfering their life. We are interfering into their life. Every day, we are giving them certain problems. When we keep the organisms in certain zoos, we are using them for different purposes like farm, in our farm, in our agricultural land. So how we should treat with them? Okay, if we are giving them training, then which kind of behavior or humanitarian expression we have to show them? So this training, handling, and stockmanship skill must be there, must be proper and frequency of veterinary checkup and health interventions. Because when we are using those organisms, their health condition may be deteriorated day by day, or any kind of other infections they have. What is the status of their health? That must be checked every day for this measure. So this is a data from research paper. Here, two labels are present. One is research based, another is animal based welfare label. Already I have mentioned here different measures. It is a data from a research paper. It mentioned two different measures and one unknown measure. Already I have mentioned here in management based measure. So in first resource based measure, score is 0 when the description itself depicts what high risk is there. If risk is there, then we can give 0 mark. Score is 0. Risk is high means resources considered to be inadequate. That means organisms are not getting proper amount of resources for animal and likely to have welfare implications. If moderate risk is there, we can give 1 mark, not highest mark. Highest mark is 2. We can give 1 mark to that measure. What kind of moderate risk? It resource is considered to be suboptimal, not optimal. Optimal is the normal. It is suboptimal and improvements needed. Yes, of course, if it is suboptimal, then improvement needed, and we can give 2 marks. Score is 2, the highest. If no observable risk is there, that means resource provision considered to be good and species appropriate according to the natural behavioral biology. Okay, so this all about the resource based risk. If we are talking about the animal based risk, it level is 0 if the risk is poor. That means animal either under or overweight. That means the weight is not ideal. It is underweight or overweight. Behavioral abnormalities are there. Limited behavioral diversity observed compared to that expected for species show little engagement with and is expressively fearful of keepers. If keeper is not good, it gives punishment every time to those organisms which are present in enclosed environment. Then organism is always in a fearful state condition, though will give more and more amount of food. organism unable to get proper nutrients due to this pureness. Okay, so here we can give 0 mark to that condition. We can give moderate or 1 mark, or score is 1 if animal slightly over and underweight, not fully over and underweight. It is slightly over and underweight, but not in ideal weight. It had observed signs of behavioral abnormality, but not frequent. And it displays limited behavioral repeater, somewhat engaged with environment and keepers. So punishment is there from the keeper side, but punishment is not frequent. Punishment is there, but sometimes punishment is there. So that is the moderate condition, animal-based welfare level. And good condition, when everything is good, keeper is good, the resources are good, the behavioral normality is present, there is no abnormalities, high level of behavioral diversities are there expressed by the organism. Okay, so this at the different data provided for resource-based level and animal-based welfare level. Now come to the characteristic of measure of indicators. Characteristic measure includes what? It includes primarily validity, that means the measure that must truly reflect the aspect of welfare. It is intended to assess what measures cortisol level as an indicator of stress. Particularly, validity means accurate measure of behavior, practice, task that is expected output or outcome of the intervention. Okay, so that is the validity. Reliability means this measure must be consistent across different contexts, observers, and types. That is the reliability. That means consistently measurable over time. Okay. And sensitivity means the measure should be able to detect small changes in welfare. That is the sensitivity. Not only the large changes, the small changes also. You should focus on the small changes. That is the sensitivity. Specificity. Specificity means the measure should specifically indicate welfare problems rather than confounding the factors. That means if we are talking about sickness and stress, both are different. Sickness is due to different factor. Stress is due to different factors. If organism is not taking food, we always cannot conclude that organism is sick. There may not be a sign of sickness. There may not be any kind of sickness in organism, but organism is not taking the food means it is in stress. And the stress may be due to any factor. If we are talking about the keeper is not good. If the keeper is not good, then the organism may not be sick, but it is in stress, unable to take its own food properly due to this kind of stress. If survival temperature is not or within not your in its own limit, survival temperature range means what amount of temperature we can tolerate at our higher level as well as lower level. If the temperature always fluctuates or beyond to its range of temperature tolerance, that means organism is in stress. If the intensity of light is not good for survival of organism, then only that leads to the stress of organism. So that is the specificity. We have to understand, we have to distinguish between different causes, like the sickness and stress. Then practicality, that measures what? Easy to implement in real world situation without causing significant disruption to the animals or requiring complex tools. Okay, so these are different characteristics. If we are talking about the indicators, or the indicator means what indicates the substances indicates regarding their well-being, regarding their status of health, regarding their caretaking, everything. What kind of what kind of characters they bear, that come under the characteristic of good indicator. Okay, so in short, we can mention that it should be valid, it should be reliable and objective, it should be sensitive, it should be specific, it should be feasible and relevant. Okay, so this is very important. Now come to the uses of animal welfare assessment. Animal welfare assessment are crucial in various contexts. So first context is scientific research. Welfare assessment are good to refine experimental procedures, ensuring ethical standard and reduce animal suffering in laboratory setting. If we are talking about research on animal, if we're talking about any kind of communicable diseases, if spreading within animal group or farm animal group or in any habitat where animals are present, then research is very important on that aspect. So what is the cause of that disease that can be observed due to research? Which kind of medicine can be developed that can be solved due to research? So scientific research for welfare assessment is very essential. It refines experimental procedures and it ensures ethical standards and reduce animal suffering in laboratory setting. Then farming and husbandry practices, animal husbandry practices and farming. This is another use of this welfare assessment. The guide livestock management, helping farmers optimize conditions to improve both animal welfare and productivity. Those who have ideas, those who studied or they have good ideas, they are skilled on this aspect, they can give good ideas, they can manage well. Welfare assessment are also crucial for certification such as human framing levels. How human should treat them, that is very important. Then conservation and wildlife management is another use. Welfare assessment is also used in this field, which are used in evaluating the condition of wild mammals in captivities, particularly in zoos and sanctuaries. In a limited space, they are kept. Okay, so welfare assessment is very important in that particular area. If we are keeping the organism, the free living organism in an enclosed place, then welfare assessment, already I have told you before some time, if we are not residing in our place, then it is not good for us. Okay, when we are keeping those organisms inside the zoos, inside the sanctuaries, that means we have to give them some special treatment. Otherwise, they'll feel stressed or they become stressed in that condition. Okay, veterinary practices, animal welfare is also used in veterinary practices, which measures in diagnosing and treating animals. Okay, research is there, day by day certain discoveries are there, new research or different type of medicines for diseases are there for their recovery. Okay, not only for physical recovery but also for emotional as well as behavioral recovery. Nowadays, veterinary science also in its progressive state for behavioral well-being of organism. Then policy and legislation, welfare assessment provide data to support regulations and laws around the ethical treatment of animals. We cannot treat an animal in inhuman practices everywhere. If it is found, then punishment is there. Okay. So these are different aspects, different uses of animal welfare assessment. Now, auditing. After assessment, auditing is very essential. Why auditing or why we conduct audit to animal welfare? Firstly, to ensure animal well-being. Welfare audits help identify conditions that affect the health, behavior, and well-being of animals. It ensures that their physical and physiological needs are met. That's why we have to conduct an audit. If proper audit is not there, if proper assessment is not there, then organism may not have their or get their proper food, their proper needs, their basic needs, physical and physiological basic needs. Regulatory compliance is another cause for this audit, which confirms, that means the audit on regulatory compliance confirms what? That confirms that situation meet legal and regulatory standard regarding animal care, which varies by country and industry. In different country, in different industry, audit must be there, which meet the regular legal and regulatory standard, whether they are following the protocols or not, whether they are giving the proper treatment to the organisms or not. Then consumer assurance is another important fact. Consumer assurance means many consumers demand the transparency regarding how animals are treated in farming, research, zoos. Welfare audit provide a level of assurance to the public as well as enhance the industry accountability. So here we can discuss that certain animal lovers are there. Those animal lovers, they are very most of the human beings, they love the organism, they love the animals. They want to know how the organisms are present or in which conditions the organisms are present in different zoos, in different research areas or research houses, whether conditions are proper or not, the hygienic conditions are maintained or not. If farm organisms are there inside the farm, the hygienic conditions is maintained or not. So everything, that transparency must be there between the people and the industry where the organisms are present. So maintaining the transparency audit is there. Because their products or services as human or welfare friendly, which can lead to competitive advantages. That means if we are talking about the bird's chicken, if organismal welfare or organismal health is good, then it can make a good market standard, a good business standard, and competitions are there for maintaining their good health. That is another aspect. At last, the aspect is ethical responsibility, which includes welfare auditing aligns with ethical obligations to ensure animals under human care are treated humanly and compassionately. That means we should care them as human beings. Okay, though they are non-human organisms, we should not care them inhumanly. Humanly, behavior is also essential for their survival, good health, everything. So this is all about the measurement of animal or measures of animal well-being. Then its implementation, implementing animal welfare assessment. So first, implementation to develop clear objective. That means they determine what aspect of animal welfare need to be assessed, whether physical health, behavioral, environment already discussed. Then identify key indicators, that is the implementing animal welfare assessment, and use a framework. Already we have mentioned, we have discussed about the 5 freedom and 5 domains model, which help provide comprehensive welfare assessment. 5 freedom, already we have discussed that freedom of hunger, discomfort, pain, fear, and freedom to express normal behavior. 5 domains: nutrient, environment, health, behavior, and mental state. So these are 5 freedoms and 5 domains, very essential. Now, the welfare assessment schemes or protocols. Which kind of protocols, which kind of assessment skills are there in worldwide? Means everybody should follow that skills. What organizations, what groups are there, what frameworks are there for organisms. So first, structured guideline explains what many industries use specific welfare assessment protocols that defines the criteria and indicators to be assessed. If we'll go for the example, that is FAWC's 5 freedom framework, which stands for Farm Animal Welfare Committee. FAWC stands for Farm Animal Welfare Committees. RSPCA, it stands for Royal Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals. Its freedom, food standards, global animal partnership. That means it's a great organization. So what they actually stand, the RSPCA, Royal Society for Prevention of Cruelty to Animal, its welfare standards for hatcheries are used to provide the only RSPCA approved scheme for the hatching, handling, transport, and culling. Culling means killing, sacrifice the chicks. That means what hatching? Hatching is the production. Hatching is the emergence of organism from the egg. Handling after emergence, how to handle those organisms. If we are talking about the chicks, after hatching from the egg, how to handle those chicks. Certain protocols are there. Every organization should follow those protocols. Then transportation is very important. Means what kind of transportation is necessary, or which transportation method can provide a good condition for the organismal survivability, and in which circumstances we can kill those organisms or calling off those organisms or poults and ducklings. That for that process, certain protocols are there. Those organizations, those groups, they provide those protocols for this process. They take account of United Kingdom legislation, government welfare codes, scientific research, veterinary advice, recommendations of the farm animal welfare committees, and the practical experience of farming industries. Okay, so by accumulating this, they set up standard operating process. They set up certain protocols, and benchmarking is here. This includes what? The protocols allow benchmarking against industries, standard or regulatory requirement, offering a comparison of welfare performance across similar setting. If a company or group is saying that yes, I am taking proper care of those animals which I have, that should be audited properly, and a comparison must be there with the same organismal condition in other farm or other industry. That is coming under the benchmarking. Third party certification, that means proper auditing by third party, that means which is not involved to those organization, to those farmers or to those farms. Third party certification is very essential. If third party is satisfied, then it is good. Otherwise, there is some, means any what we call it as different discriminations are there, not well condition is maintained. Okay, and adaptability. Welfare assessment protocol should be adaptable to different species and environment, recognizing that welfare needs vary. Okay. So, for training and certification of animal welfare auditors, these points are very important. It includes competence and expertise. Welfare auditors. So, what characteristic or she has expertise on this field? Welfare auditor must be trained in animal biology, behavior, welfare science, and specific industry or specific species they are auditing. If one auditor is there for auditing chicks, then it is very difficult for that auditor to audit about the horses, to audit about the elephant. That means that auditor has mastery on auditing those chicks, on verifying those conditions or the conditions surrounding the chicks. So, species training, regarding species training, the auditor training regarding species, regarding specific industry, regarding welfare science, everything is very essential. That's why different departments are there. Wildlife department is different, poultry department is different. Every department is different from each other to develop their ability. Accreditation program, different accreditation program. That means professional animal auditor certification organization course, PACO course. Okay, various organizations offer training and certification for animal welfare auditors. Skill and knowledge areas, they include these three things: knowledge of animal behavior and welfare science, auditing skills, ethical consideration. Okay, knowledge on animal behavior and welfare science means understanding the species specific welfare needs. If one develops its mastery on particular species, that means he or she should be engaged in that species welfare program. Auditing skills means familiarity with the audit tools. If one is there for audit, then he or she should know what kind of tools are there for use, or he has seen some ideas about that assessment technique and reporting. If one is unable to report, unable to express his observations or her observations, then also it is not helpful for maintenance of this well-being. Then ethical consideration, it ensures auditors adhere to ethical guidelines in welfare auditing. Whether ethical committee is satisfying or not. Certain ethical guidelines are there for every organism in all the farms or all the companies. They are actually following or not the ethical rules in animal care. Okay. So on the job training, practical on-site experience, auditing animal welfare is often required. Tools are also important for this certification program. And lastly, the continuous education is very important. Theoretical knowledge is important. Welfare standards and scientific knowledge about animal welfare evolve. So auditors need to regularly update their training to stay informed about new protocols or welfare concern, because every day there is certain new data available. If we do not update ourselves, then it is very difficult to maintain the present condition. Like that, if an auditor is not able to update himself or herself, then it is very difficult for the auditor side to maintain animal welfare properly. Up to this clear? Okay, so this part is over.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
We have completed the animal welfare part 1. Okay, most of the things we have discussed, we have covered. I'll send you the notes in 2 to 3 days. Okay. So have some ideas about this or not? You people got some ideas about this or not?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, Devasmita Mohanto. Do you want to say something?
No, sir. No, sir. By mistake.
Okay, you got. Again, I'm repeating whatever notes is there in my PPT. It means I have collected those notes from different sources, but these are for the teaching purpose. For writing purpose, you just have to go through it. You just have to go through other sources, but you have then make your own notes. Then only you can answer properly. When we're like one example I have given there, if we are talking about different kind of behavior, animal behavior, thermoregulation behavior, you have to mention what kind of thermoregulation behavior we or the animals are following? What is thermoregulation? What is the range of temperature tolerance? Why organisms are going for thermoregulations? Okay. What would happen if organism is present beyond the range of temperature tolerance? These all are very important. Okay. So now from your side, tell if any doubt within certain span of time, we can clear 1 to 2 doubts. So if you have any doubts, anybody from your side can ask me questions. This is the time for
Good evening,
discussion.
sir.
Yes.
Sir, is it our last class for animal welfare ethics?
I think tomorrow is the last class. Tomorrow we'll discuss about the animal welfare part 2.
Okay, sir.
Okay. Already we have finished animal welfare part 1. You just go through your syllabus. I think most of the things I have covered, almost all the things I have covered from animal welfare part 1. Next class tomorrow, we'll discuss about this animal welfare part 2. Okay. And the different aspects. Any other confusions? Have you gone through these notes? Okay, note only you got it today.
Sir, we got
Go
today
through the
only.
notes. Yes, go through the notes. If any confusion, then you can ask me in this class. But I think we'll not get much time in this class for discussion. You can pin me in my WhatsApp number for the discussion. Definitely, I'll go through it. I will make sure that I'll clear your doubts. Any other confusion or any other doubts from today's class? What we have discussed regarding animal welfare, different freedom plans, different domain plans, animal welfare assessment. These are the discussions in today's class. Is there any confusion from this? We have 4 to 5 minutes. If any confusion, you can ask me. Okay, so any confusion? Okay, we'll wind up here. Very good night to all.
Thank you, sir. Good night.